Bernard Arnault's $190 billion luxury empire wasn't built on superior quality or innovation. It was built by mastering psychological shortcuts that control your buying decisions without you even knowing it. The LVMH chairman controls the world's largest luxury conglomerate with $88.3 billion in revenue. And every purchase you make, from Louis Vuitton to Tiffany, taps into psychological triggers that influence your buying decisions without you realizing it. Coming up, you'll discover the heuristics luxury brands use to extract maximum profit from your psychology. And, at the end, some strategies to recognize them and regain control over your purchasing decisions. When you see a $13,500 Birkin bag, you're being manipulated by the first heuristic that built Arnault's empire. Hermès deliberately exploits this mental shortcut, raising prices annually not because production costs demand it, but because higher prices actually increase desirability in your mind. The price becomes the product. In 2024, Walmart.com retails similar-looking bags priced between $78 and $102, which is a 99.4% price reduction for essentially the same design. This reveals the second heuristic that built Arnault's empire: brand prestige as a decision-making shortcut. Your brain doesn't evaluate the craftsmanship, materials, or functionality when you see the Hermès logo. It immediately assigns value based on the brand name alone. Hermès enforces this through its waiting lists and purchase restrictions. You must first spend thousands on other Hermès products before you're permitted to buy a Birkin, creating artificial scarcity that transforms the logo into a gatekeeping mechanism. The brand becomes your cognitive shortcut for assessing worth, bypassing rational analysis entirely. Without that tiny metal nameplate, you're holding a leather bag that costs less than your monthly coffee budget. Think about that $13,500 Birkin. Would you still want it if it came in a plain brown box with no logo? Comment your answer below. Now let's examine the third psychological trigger that luxury brands exploit to control your spending decisions. Here's where social proof becomes your most expensive vulnerability. 68% of 18 to 29-year-olds in the US use iPhones, and iPhone users have higher average incomes of $85,000 per year, compared to $61,000 for Android users, with 27% holding graduate degrees versus just 8% of Android users. You're not buying the phone for its technical superiority, you're buying membership into a perceived social class. When your brain sees someone with an iPhone, it immediately categorizes them as higher status, more education, more success. Over 90% of iPhone users remain loyal to Apple, compared to just 70 to 80% loyalty for Android users. Your prefrontal cortex doesn't analyze the $1,200 price tag against comparable Android alternatives. It calculates the social cost of being excluded from the blue text message group. The phone becomes a tribal identifier that you pay premium prices to maintain. The fourth heuristic drives your most expensive decisions. Aesthetic appeal becomes your shortcut to perceived quality and reliability. When you see Apple's minimalist design, those clean lines, that perfectly weighted aluminum, that satisfying click of the home button, your brain doesn't analyze the internal components or benchmark performance against competitors. Every curve, edge, and material choice is meticulously crafted to trigger an emotional response. The visual elegance creates an immediate assumption. If it looks this sophisticated, it must perform better than uglier alternatives. This is why you'll pay $1,200 for an iPhone when functionally equivalent Android phones cost half as much. Your brain equates beautiful design with superior engineering and reliability, even when the specifications tell a different story. Apple weaponized this heuristic by making design inseparable from the product itself, so the aesthetic appeal becomes indistinguishable from the actual performance in your mind. These heuristics work because they tap into deeper psychological motivations that luxury brands employ against your wallet. The first is hedonic motivation, the intrinsic pleasure you get from owning luxury items, whether through self-reward for achievements or the sensory gratification of touching premium materials. The second motivation is social conformity, your pursuit of membership in an exclusive group. The third is cultural capital, using luxury purchases as psychological tools to signal, "I am valuable and successful," to yourself and others, demonstrating sophistication and cultural knowledge. These motivations operate below your conscious awareness, making every luxury purchase feel like a personal choice when it's actually the predictable result of psychological manipulation designed to extract maximum profit from your deepest insecurities about status, belonging, and self-worth. Now that you understand how Arnaud's empire exploits these psychological vulnerabilities, here's how to protect yourself from these manipulations in your own purchasing decisions. First, implement the 48-hour rule. Before any luxury purchase over $100, wait 2 full days. This cooling-off period allows your rational mind to override the emotional triggers these brands deliberately activate. During those 48 hours, ask yourself 3 critical questions. Would I buy this item if it had no brand name or logo? Am I purchasing this to solve an actual problem or to signal something about myself? If I saw someone else buying this exact item, what would I assume about their motivations? Second, practice price anchoring awareness. When you see a luxury item, immediately research 3 comparable alternatives at different price points. This breaks the price-quality bias by forcing your brain to evaluate actual features rather than relying on cost as a quality indicator. Third, recognize social proof manipulation by identifying your reference groups. Ask yourself, whose approval am I seeking with this purchase? What would happen if those people never saw me use this product? The goal isn't to eliminate all luxury purchases, but to ensure your decisions are conscious choices rather than unconscious responses to psychological manipulation. Remember, every time you see a Louis Vuitton logo, a Hermès waiting list, or an Apple Store's minimalist design, you're witnessing the same psychological architecture that built Arnaud's empire. These brands didn't become successful by creating superior products. They became successful by understanding your mind better than you do. The moment you recognize these patterns, you regain control over your purchasing decisions and can choose when to engage with luxury on your own terms rather than theirs. Subscribe for more psychology breakdowns in the world of luxury, wealth, and success.